The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is the fourth film in the Wes Anderson collection. And let's just get right into the evolution of Wes Anderson, because this is quite a different movie than all of his other ones, right?
Yeah, this is the first movie he had with a budget. I think it's his largest.
50 million.
Yeah, I think it's his largest budgeted movie to date still.
Yeah.
And you can tell that he really dove into it, and he tried to exercise the money and make it show. The sets, like we had talked about it before, how he had very colorful, elaborately decorated sets in Royal Tenenbaums, but this one, that boat set alone,
It's crazy,
just nuts. And I like that. You don't see any kind of big ambitious sets like that in movies anymore. So there are things that I like that he did with his budget, but there are some things I didn't like. How do you feel about how he handled having a big budget?
Yeah, I mean, I would say still that this is his most ambitious film. There's a lot of ambitious ideas in this. It's set, obviously, a lot within the water. It's also a lot, it's more of an action-oriented film. I watching it again, I can't believe how many explosions and gunfights and all those types of things. And it's also him dabbling into special effects quite a bit as well, which I actually like the style of special effects in this. I think it's going to turn a lot of people off if you haven't seen it, because it's a little bit jarring and weird. But I like the stop-motion animation that he utilizes within the movie.
Yeah, it's weird. This movie's kind of like a cocktail of all of his movies. Yeah. You have, you have the ensemble cast from Royal Tenenbaums. You got the matching unis, in Bottle Rocket. You got stop motion that he later used in Fantastic Mr. Fox. So it's just kind of, I feel like with some of these ideas that he had for Life Aquatic, he was just throwing darts at a board and all right, let's do this, let's do that. So the gunfights, they're just in there. They're kind of weird, and you're right. This is a little bit more actiony kind of movie. But,
there's explosions and stuff.
Right, but I never got that real action kind of feel from it. So whenever that comes into the movie, it just feels a little out of place.
As with any Wes Anderson movie, there's a big ensemble cast with this movie. There's just tons of stars, and the big star is Bill Murray. Again, he's back for a lead role in a Wes Anderson movie. What do you think of Bill Murray as Steve Zissou?
I like him in this one. This is up there with one of my favorite performances of Bill Murray. He walks that line of where he's despicable enough where you root against him, but he's Bill Murray, so you're always rooting for him.
Yeah.
And so there are some scenes where you completely sympathize with him. There's some scenes where he's justly villainized and he manipulates people. So it is a more complex character than what we usually see as the lovable fun guy leading the pack from Bill Murray.
Yeah.
But it's still a very good performance. And like I've said with all these Wes Anderson movies, he tends to bring out the best in some of these actors, and I gotta say, Willem Dafoe and Cate Blanchett, two of my favorite performances by them in this movie.
Big time, yeah.
Bill Murray definitely carries this movie well.
Definitely, all the acting's top notch. But Bill Murray, this is a complicated character for Bill Murray, and just Steve Zissou. He's an aging man that's losing his prime, and he's trying to hang on to it. There's lots of times where he's struggling, have I lost it? Am I not good anymore? Right. And I feel like he's losing his identity a little bit, and with the chance to him maybe have a son sort of reinvigorates him a little bit to see what he can do for his last adventure, his last hurrah. And I love this performance by Bill Murray. But you're right. I mean, Wes Anderson once again walks that line of sympathetic or just downright hating this guy, because he does some awful things in this movie. And then at the end, I still really feel for him, and I still get a little choked up.
Yeah, that final scene in the submarine, that's where the movie really reaches its climax and culminates in this ending where things are just left unresolved.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of one of my problems with this movie. There's a lot of unresolved things.
Yeah,
for instance, Ned and Steve, you don't really find out if they're related. Ned and Eleanor, you don't really find out if they get back together.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So. But I think it's fitting to the movie where it's just sometimes you want these things, and it's reflective of him holding on to his prime. It's going to be unresolved. You're not going to get the ending you want. But while there are some things in this movie that I don't particularly like, there are a lot of things to love. For instance, I love Seu Jorge's character, Pele dos Santos, and he's always playing David Bowie songs, singing them in Portuguese, and the very David Bowie-centric soundtrack from start to finish. It's 90% Bowie, and I'm a big Bowie fan, so I do gotta give Wes Anderson a shout out for making that kind of the score, the lifeblood to his movie.
Yeah, I like that he's playing the guitar in the scene, and then the whole scene will go with this music, and then at the end you'll pan over and you'll see that he was just sort of sitting off to the side playing while they were talking. So I bought the soundtrack strictly because of those Bowie covers. But yeah, I like a lot about this movie, and there are some things that I don't like as much. I think it's unnecessarily rated R. It's a super rated R movie, and sometimes it's jarring how the language is very rated R. Or there's a girl that's topless for no reason, or like it's just kind of once again throwing darts a little bit, being like, let's just do it this way. That the pacing is a little off for me. I think it feels long. This movie feels very long because it's very all over the place. It's not that long. It's about 2 hours long.
I enjoy this movie more every time I watch it.
Yeah.
That's because like I've got a broad sense of the story and everything, and I can focus on the details, the character moments, and things like that. But for someone watching this movie for the first time around, if it's like what's going on, there's so much happening, I can totally understand that.
Buffs.
So we gave our thoughts for Wes Anderson's 4th feature-length film. What would you score it?
There is a lot to like about this movie. There are some things not to like. I appreciate Wes Anderson's ambition in some moments, and some I just felt like it was a swing and a miss. So I'll give Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with you. Roger Ebert said with this movie, he doesn't really think he can recommend it to anybody, but he would never sway anyone from not watching it. It's
Right.
this weird type of thing. I personally do like this movie a lot, but I think there's a little bit more problems with it than his other films. So I'm going to go right there with you, a 7.5. Still recommend it. I think it's a fun watch, just not as grand as the others.
Buffs.
So that's our review of The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Have you seen the film? What do you think of Wes Anderson's style in general? Leave all your comments down below.
Join us next week when we go on to his 5th feature, The Darjeeling Limited. This one also a very interesting movie, and I'm excited to hear our thoughts about it. So we'll bring you that review next week. Until then, don't forget,
There's no place like the theater.